It's the weekly 30/30 trading list on the ASX. That's two lists. We're looking at the strongest quarterly momentum companies over the last quarter. They're generally the market leaders. And then we have a look at the top 30 companies on the launchpad. They're the ones that are fueled up and ready to run with the strongest weekly improvement in their momentum. Gary Glover has been through the list and we're going to go through them. I'm Christopher Hall and this is Finer Market Points. Good afternoon, Gary. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Chris.
We've been through the list. We've pulled it forward a little bit. So you've got the list and normally when you get it, but we're recording a bit earlier. So how did the list look in the short amount of time that you've had to work through it?
Yeah, not too bad there. Quite a lot of the, as we know, these quarterly leaders, they tend to sort of, lead and keep leading, and you look at stocks that are making new highs, they amazingly keep staying on that list, keep making new highs. So there's definitely a lot in there that have sort of run for a while here and still pretty firm here. So yeah, WMG was number one. I think Impedimed IPD was number two there. It still looks pretty good here, Chris. I mean, that's obviously it's jumped up here, some good volume. Eased back here, no, volume really dried up, and then the volume sort of come again, and now we're having a bit of a breather. And again, that's sort of where are our sellers? That was, there's a down day there. Look a bit, look at today here. No, so again, there's no, not showing signs of any weakness here yet. So I know it looks like it's elevated, but until we see sellers in there, that normally suggests the leaders continue to lead. So yeah, so that's still pretty decent. 40X has had a pretty good run there, pretty strong move. Again, similar, sort of had that big jump on good volume, had a bit of a breather in here, had a little bit of a jump, dried up again, and then popped through the upside here, and then it's sort of gone on here again. So a little bit more selling coming in here. So first time a little bit of selling coming in 40X. So probably too late to go in there, you're already there. But yeah, probably just got to be a tiny bit cautious there with that extra selling stepping in there. Well, this one looks pretty interesting, Chris. It's had a decent volume there, all the way up here. Looked a little exhaustive. This bar here has cooled off there. Definitely was a bit of selling in there. But now we've sort of started to calm out here and congest here. So definitely got to watch this here now. Sort of, if we sort of start to congest a bit more and the sellers don't start to sort of step in here. I mean, so you'll often see the sellers stop in, come in early. That's definitely exhaustive sort of top there, that big, wide, a big volume. If you've been running up, and you see that big gap up there on massive volume, that should be a sign of exhaustion now. Now you've got a massive shooting star sort of candle as well, which is bearish. You got a bearish candle, you got bearish volume, you got a gap there. So if you're long these and you saw that, you should be tightening up, or at least taking some partials at least. Yeah, but interesting here that we've had a bit of selling. That's normal. It's come off quite a bit, which is normal, but we're sort of confirming again and congesting here. So definitely one that I circled to keep an eye on here the next few days and just see what occurs here. Ideally, I can see that sort of volume dry up here and not sort of sell off much. BEZ is sort of one that's had a bit of a move here. Just probably the volume's been pretty decent and sort of going through a bit of a congestion phase. That looks okay. TSO, again, probably a little bit small here, but definitely some decent volume on that run. Pulling back here, a little bit reactive there. These sort of smaller stocks are definitely more reactive, so kind of harder to trade. TLX, again, here's our,
leaders lead.
Leaders lead. We've got a VCP in here. We've got to break through the top side here. Yeah, so really, this didn't look back here. So I was sort of reading some of Linda Rashke sort of stuff there, and oftentimes, sometimes when they break through the top here, they'll react. They might come back. So she likes to buy, markets. I mean, she basically likes to sort of see markets. She'll basically buy the first dip after a market goes to a new high. That hasn't happened here. So it's just gone straight up and gone through. So yeah, I know.
No throwback
Total
there.
traders there. Richard Dennis, he was, his sort of, if you read all his stuff there, he was the opposite to Linda Rashke. He sort of, if the stock's going up, don't wait for a pullback, just buy it. So totally different mentality there with trading there. So look, each of the own, you definitely get heaps of pullbacks when they like a lot of stocks, they go to a new high, then they pull back. That's happening a lot. It's happening an awful lot in the current market. But this was a pretty powerful. I mean, I guess when you see the breakout big volume there, that's probably the tell there, Chris. When if you do break through these highs here and the volume's up, that's probably it's when you sort of should go with them. But yeah, looking a little, hasn't had a breather here, so quite amazing. LAN was sort of a smaller one there. It's had a bit of a move. That was one that had a really nice VCP. Starting to overlap a little bit here. Not too much volume coming in yet, but is slowing down. EOS sort of, again, a little small here, bit messy there, a little bit of a, kind of a tight VCP in there, but a pretty messy one. But has sort of broken out on decent volume there, so probably one just to keep an eye on. WA1 was sort of, this one's pretty interesting to me, just because we've sort of got our first correction, second correction, and then this correction here is nice and tight. That's what I like to see, a little VCP and that really tight volume there, and then break up here. So we popped up here. This has been pretty good volume. Couple down days here, look at that. If that was going to sell off here, you would have seen some more volume through there, Chris. So this is still looking pretty interesting, actually. So might feel a bit late there, but I can't see anything wrong with that at this stage. Pointsbet was sort of one that, this is definitely one we should keep an eye on here. I think, as I say, I know a lot of sort of fundies were starting to buy this because it was sort of under cash backing here. Had a good little move and definitely some decent volume through there. Had 2 days down here. What are we seeing here so far?
Very low volume.
Not too much selling there so far. So, because considering this has been in a downtrend for a long time, lots of losers there. So if anyone's panicking out of this here, finally, sell me out slightly higher here. There's not too much of a rush to get out of this thing. That's constructive there. So we might go through a little bit of a pullback, maybe a little three-wave congestion there, but early signs are actually pretty good. So definitely one to be keeping an eye on. RSG, obviously the goals here are still really robust. Okay, talk about sort of leaders leading, literally just had that little pause and then, way it went in there. So almost a good study when you sort of, most people will see a stock up here and think, no, this is not going to work here. But, we've got a bit of a congestion there. Again, you just don't see, when you see the volume dry up here, you don't see follow through here. Then it sort of start to build here. You get a couple of updates, volume comes in, and then, again, we saw the volume sort of being a bit lighter, pop through here. So, well, look, they're getting pretty long here. This is to me like a little fourth wave. So, usually get a fifth wave high and stuff there. But yeah, that, it's probably too late here. But as I say, the trend's pretty strong here. So, often, kind of habit of always exceeding expectations here. NEU sort of one that has run pretty tight, so pretty big volume through there. Again, just sort of congesting here, sort of struggling to sort of sell off here so far. Look at it, I don't know how much higher this goes here, but still not seeing too much selling coming in there so far. STP, only other one there, probably too small for me, but is a bit of a flat sort of corrective pattern. So that's kind of interesting there. So those are our quarterly stocks. So just amazing that most of those stocks are, probably half of that list has been there for a while and just continue to keep ticking higher. So supportive of the the relative strength, the stronger stocks continue to keep pushing higher and higher and higher, and while most people are looking to buy new lows, which a lot of stocks continue to keep making them, they should be focused on the stronger stocks moving higher here. Now, one stock which has is number one on a weekly list is MP1. So it's obviously had a nice jump here, a bit of a gap up. So and now just sort of congesting there. So good volume there. So I do view this as sort of constructive there, Chris. So I like the fact that it's gone to a new low, washed out here. Bit of a change in character, obviously on fundamental news. I always like to sort of see the fundamentals and the technicals together. And just starting to pull back here, but volume drying up here. So not too much, not too much aggressiveness in the selling here. I think if this sort of fades, another day or two here, not too much volume, volume dries up. Definitely sort of one to keep an eye on there. That looks all right. Number two on a weekly list, COD, probably too small for me, but the big lines of volume there definitely catching the eye. So probably keep an eye on that one. Playside Studios PLY. Did see this actually. I was watching this actually. Did trade a little bit of this. Not only a small position there, but just sort of saw this sort of bit of a high low there, but just a little VCP in there, and then we had a little bit of a my little B wave break here. It's had a bit of a move. Had a reaction today, but not too much volume here. Definitely pretty choppy market there. Just some stocks moving around. I mean, I know sort of. Look at this jumbo there. Got the sort of off that low. Big rally there from $12.50 to over $14 there, and then just whack, and then up two, and then whack, and then up again, and back down the bottom. And in 2 days, we've gone to a new high again. It's just that chart sort of almost typifies the current trading environment at the moment. It's just you're definitely getting a lot of activity and a lot of volatility in the moves here. So got to keep your stops reasonably wide here. Probably keep your position size maybe not too aggressive. I did write a little note down. This is not a market to chase. This is a market to wait for those consolidations. So, in terms of sort of, our patterns here, we don't want to be sort of chasing breakouts and sort of stocks that get new highs there. They just often sort of failing, coming back and then building again. So I think it's okay to, we're trading our patterns here, but I just think it's an environment there where you're sort of, if you're chasing too hard here, you're sort of getting caught out here. Some small ones on the weekly list. Probably the biggest one there was PNI. There was a little bit of a VCP in there, maybe a little B wave break there. So a bit of a volume has broken back above the 50, which is supportive there. Not the worst chart there. Thought WeBet now was interesting. Obviously, this sort of this was the flavour of the month there, and then it's had a pretty big correction there after a pretty messy capital raise. But after this, it did sort of start to build here. Not too much volume in here. But just sort of starting to build there, and then had a little, the whole thing sort of triangulated here and had a little bit of a pop here. So, look, I'm not sure that's to me that's an overbalance of the trend. They can always go back and retest, maybe come back up into the range again. So far, the one thing we're seeing on this rally, Chris, is not a lot of volume. So, it's a pretty light. So just, might go higher here, but that's for me, it looks like a counter trend after an overbalance. So I wouldn't be rushing back into that one. STN. Again, a sort of smaller one there. So just, some big volumes that are occurring down here the last month or two. I think it might be in that sort of gold space there, but maybe a little too hard, a little too choppy. Kogan there was sort of one we talked about there, building a series of higher lows, change of character there, good volume, bit of a pop here. So, it's had a bit of a run here, so wouldn't really be chasing this one there, but I think if you see it sort of pull back there, wait for some sort of consolidation there. This is interesting here, sort of Sezzle. Not a stock I like here, but got a VCP in there, Chris. Sort of rallied through here, pulled back. That's sort of corrective, and then impulsive, pull back here again, have a bit of a rally, pull back here again. So Tyro, similar sort of setup here. A little bit of a VCP in there as well. Yeah, not my favourite sort of stocks there to trade, but pattern, the sort of consolidation is sort of constructive there. So one to keep an eye on for people who like that space. I'm just not one of them. NMT, maybe building here. Probably want to see a few more high lows here. A little bit messy. I thought Healius actually is starting to look interesting. Just saw this big volume here. Obviously, probably to do with the Australian Clinical Lab sort of takeover there. Pretty interesting here. I mean, very opportunistic. You've got a company that's probably about a quarter of the size of Healius trying to take it over. That's usually going to have a difficult time to succeed, in my opinion. But good volume here, and then pull back here on very, very light volume. Come back to the 50-day. Just seem to be sort of bouncing off the 50-day, Chris, as well. So not the worst looking chart here. I always sort of thought maybe ACL might bring some other suitors into this, but yeah, so I don't mind that actually. I think that's kind of constructive. PNR a bit small here, but the volume did catch the eye. Just some pretty big volume through there, and then gone sideways here. Just starting to see a little bit more volume come in again. Don't know anything about the stock at all. Just that volume did sort of catch the eye. That's all. So yeah, that's all I'll say. Last one there, KLS. Just thought this was interesting there. Had a nice little bounce there. It's sort of come back again. Just starting to sort of hold up here. Sort of showing a bit of relative strength there. Yeah, pretty flat. I guess a bit of a false break, you might say, down to that low, and then a bounce here. So yeah, so that's probably it. So we've got a few triggers in there. Definitely got a few stocks to sort of keep an eye on. Got a few stocks making change of character as well. So yeah, but in this market here, got to make sure we get a process right. Don't chase too hard in this market here. You can see there's definitely got some volatility whipping back and forth. Find here if you've got the stocks you like, get sort of set at the right levels, and then they run. Don't chase them. Wait for them to have a breather. I think 2/3 to 3/4 of the time you're getting those breathers there. This market's just not in a hurry. So you're definitely getting a second and third chance here to get set most of the time here with a lot of these stocks here, even though it is pretty volatile.
Well, that's definitely a good advice or insight to take with the market and the current climate. What I noticed as you went through those charts, you picked up Tyro and at the same time Sezzle, and noticing that they both had VCPs, which is a little reminiscent of uranium and lithium when they both went for their runs in the last 2 years. Something that we've noticed, and you and I have talked a bit about off air, is the strength of the industries. Now, I'm not saying this is a standout trade, but it's reminiscent. It was May 2021 when there were 12 ASX listed companies that were in the lithium space, and they all created volatility contraction patterns. And in between May and August, they all broke out of the volatility contraction pattern and shot up. And it was if when they were breaking out, they were explosive movements, but they were all indicating to each other that they were moving. And while we might not necessarily be too keen on this part of the market, another one, the Resolute. Well, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on not necessarily the space?
I just don't like the sector. But the one thing we're not seeing there is, I mean, even looking at EML, which is the other one, which has gone to a new high here, so it's taken out some swing highs. But what's the counter trend done here so far?
So it hasn't moved.
Done very little. Yeah, hasn't moved. So these stocks just aren't selling off here, Chris. So whereas in the past they've sort of sold off pretty aggressively.
Your chart shows that.
So yeah. So I don't like the sector, but the stocks are actually looking okay. Yeah. So what was the other one?
There was Tyro and Sezzle, but
yeah, Tyro as well. Yeah. So yeah, I mean we're probably slightly better quality names in terms of the group we're looking at here, but still a risky group. Be like me trading crypto. I just, just not a fan.
Well,
yeah.
The other one that you brought up, very different part of the market, it was Resolute Gold RSG on that chart. So moving from sort of that 20-cent base, as you noted, it's been running hard and fast. The volume was increasing as it was running up that flagpole in a way, and quite possibly creating a high and tight flag with 100% gain between the base of the pole around 20 odd cents, 22 I think that might be. I just can't see the numbers on the far right hand side. And actually I'll load on my own chart. So the base there, breaking out 24 cents and then getting up, topping out around 49, 50 odd cents. That is 100% gain. And looking at the Thomas Bulkalski side of things for a high and tight flag, it definitely consolidated in a top third of that range, didn't it?
Yeah, the viewers don't know that that you and I have been working on sort of something for the last couple of weeks. Very pertinent to this chart here, actually. So we're looking for sort of leading sectors of stocks that sort of start to get going. So like, they hit our a trigger on the weekly move, and then when they sort of start to lead, they hit that quarterly level, and then they go through a little congestion there. And what we've started to look for, Chris, is what's this? What are we looking for at the moment?
Well, there's the coils, and then what they do after the coil.
Yeah, so we're looking for these stocks to have a breather, have a congestion there, and apart from the price action just sort of consolidating there, we're finding here these three moving averages, they all converge, and then we see a pop, usually over the 50, so we want to see that little congestion, that coil, and then that break above here, and then I just looking at what we're sort of starting to look for. That's what we're looking for there, so leading theme, bit of a pullback, coil up here, and away we go. So there's a few there. I saw, I think we were just talking off there, 88 here, there we go. So I've got all our moving averages are all coiling here, come together, congesting. We're just sitting above the 50, moving average, and then kapow. So that's what we're, so sometimes there's leaders there. Sometimes they can just go through sideways moves like this, or otherwise they can have a bit of a cool off and coil there. But just noticing these moving averages there, sort of starting to, coil up and then go there. So
I think that was
kind of exciting. Actually, I think we're on the right theme there, Chris. Just seeing some of these stocks coil and move there. I think just seeing a few here today off you, Lost, that you sent me, look pretty interesting. So so interesting development. So just sort of we're learning as we go along. We're trying to get better, and but this is sort of something which is sort of fitting into that leading themes there of the weeklies and quarterlies, and then
so it's been really exciting working on that list with you and trying to find those next companies that are going to break out. So we'll bring more to the viewers and the listeners in due course when that comes through. And that probably brings us to a natural end. So we'll say thank you very much, Gary Glover from Novus Capital, for the insights and sharing through these charts this week. Now, Gary mentioned a few trading strategies, and we put that on the right-hand side in a full playlist where we're talking about the high and tight flags, different trading strategies, and also there's another playlist on the right-hand side, which is Gary's Tuesday report, and he's looked at Kogan and a few other companies in that which have been trades for the portfolio. That whole playlist is on the right-hand side. And then finally, on the left-hand side is Gary Glover's Twitter handle, where you can follow him and catch him up there.